Hello, my wonderful Twin Tower students. This video series is going to be about mechanical engineering. We're going to design a tinker-cad creation that we can 3D print that has moving parts. So what we're going to create is a uh, balloon-powered car. So I don't have a balloon with me right now, but I have this car. The wheels spin. The wheels spin. So this car would be able to, drive around. And we have this circle on top where we would blow up a balloon, wrap it around this circle. There's a little hole here. That hole leads out back here, and it forces air out of the back of the car, making the car drive. That's going to be the goal of this lesson, is to create this. Hopefully I can make a little video demonstrating that in a little bit. But let's get started on that lesson. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go to Learn in the top right of our tinker-cad once we're signed in. So I'm clicking that right now. Now there's a big button that says Projects. We haven't done a project yet. These are going to be a little bit bigger than the lessons, and they might take multiple classes. So we're going to go to Projects. We're going to go to See All Projects. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but on my little car, I designed it to look like our the little Cybertrucks, like what we had done during vector graphics. And here's actually my prototype, just to make sure that it kind of looked correctly, like a Cybertruck. Oh, and as you might have noticed, we're now using black filament. We've run out of gray filament, and we're now moving on to black filament for at least a while. Alrighty. Once you get into projects, you can go to balloon-powered car. This is going to give you everything you need to make your own balloon-powered car. If you make it where it would probably work pretty well, then that would be 100. If you want to go above and beyond and design it, maybe make it look like a car you're a fan of. Maybe you're like a big Forza player and you want it to look like a specific car from your games, maybe something like GTA, and you want to design it, decorate it, or maybe something like silly, like you could put little, Thomas the Tank's face on it or something, maybe like bunny ears. However you guys want to decorate your cars is fine. But once we get into the lesson, we can start by clicking the first lesson, Create the Body of Our Car. And for these lessons, just for the sake of making sure it works, I would probably follow along pretty closely at first and then add on the details later. So this is what the lesson looks like when it's completed. I'm actually going to scroll down and click Reset to reset my lesson so I can go through it again with you guys. So as with all of this project works very similar to lessons. As with all of our lessons, we're going to follow the instructions on the left side, and we're going to just do whatever the instructions tell us to do. So let's see. Create the body of your car. Air power has been harnessed for centuries to power the sails of boats or create mechanical motions in windmills. In this project, we will harness the power of air captured in a balloon to power a 3D printed car that you are going to design and print. In this project, we're going to design the body for our 3D printed car. We're going to create a pathway for air to exit so that the air can exit the balloon, go through the car, and push out the back of the car to push the car forward. And we're going to create wheels and axles for the car to roll on. So it shows me a red box, so I'm going to hit next, and yeah. So car body. The body of the car is the main shape. The body will tell us where the axles and wheels will be positioned, and it will have the balloon connector on it. So we will begin here with the body. So let's get started. So instructions. Place a box on the work plane. So I know how to do that. And size it to be 20 by 60 by 20. So 20 by 60. And it's already 20 on top. Perfect. Continue to the next step. So I finish the steps. I click next to go on to the next step. So now we have the body. And it's just a rectangle, and we just rotated it. We just resized it. Add holes for the axles. So I'm going to drag in a cylinder, and I'm going to drag in the one that's already a hole. And size it to 11 in diameter. So the diameter is, both of these numbers have to be 11. So to do that, I can just hold Shift and drag this corner down to resize that down to 11. And we have to make the cylinder 25 millimeters tall. 25. Change the cylinder to a hole. Mine is already a hole. Let's continue to the next step. We can now position the axle so it can make a hole through the body of the car. So rotate the cylinder 90 degrees. So I'm going to rotate it using this rotation tool, the one that's kind of behind it, or if you're starting from this angle like I was, it would be a little to the right or a little to the left. And I'll rotate it 90 degrees. And if we remember, 90-degree rotations are our most important rotations in this class. They take things that are standing up and put them down on their side. They take things that are on their side, they can stand them up. You can put things on their side. These are 90-degree rotations. These are the most important rotations in our class. And now it wants us to align it to the bottom of the box and then align it to the center of the box. So see the image above to see where it should be. So I have this image above, and it's in that bottom right corner. Okay, sure. So I'll hold Shift to select them both. And I'll use Align. And I'll align it to this bottom corner. And I'm also going to center it so that it goes right through the shape. So we got to make sure that it's in the corner and that it's going all the way through the body of our car. Let's see if there's any other steps. Continue to the next step. Okay, next. We now have the axle aligned with the body, but it's right at the edge of the box. We need to position it just a little bit to make it stronger. So that's a really good point. So if we were to 3D print this, we would have a very, very, very thin piece of plastic here, right underneath where the wheel is, and right here. So what it wants us to do is just move this circle a little bit more like into the body of the car. So I'm going to click on it, and let's see what it wants me to do that. So look at the model from the side, select the cylinder, that means click on it, and press the left arrow key on the keyboard 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, it's telling me left, but I'm looking at it from a different angle than it expects. So I actually have to press the right arrow key on the keyboard 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's what it wants me to do there. And yes, tapping arrow keys is a way to move our object. So I moved it 5 millimeters to the right. With the cylinder still selected, use the black arrow to lift it away from the work plane, meaning up 3 millimeters. 1, 2, 3. That seems a little high, but that's okay. We'll follow the instructions. And again, you guys could be a little creative with this. You could maybe move your axle somewhere else. Maybe you could put a third axle. Maybe you could put, all kinds of wacky things. Whatever you guys think. Whatever works for you. So continue to the next step. I definitely don't mind when people stray from the instructions. We can now use the cylinder hole we just created to make a second one that we can position on the other side of this car. So duplicate the first axle hole by selecting the duplicate button. Okay, so that's this button right here, so I'll duplicate it. Change the snap grid to 5. Okay, snap grid to 5. Haven't done that before, but sure. Just follow the instructions. Rotate the view to look at the car from the side. Okay, already kind of there, but let's make sure. Press the left arrow 8 times. So I'm actually looking from the opposite side that it expects me to. So I'm going to hit the right arrow 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because we moved it 8 times and it's doing it 5 millimeters at a time, we moved it 40 millimeters. Very cool. Now we're going to select all of these shapes. There's 3 of them. And we're going to group them together with the group button. That'll turn those holes from hole objects that aren't really holes into actual holes through our shape. Continue to the next step. Now this is a part where you guys can really get creative because This part is just kind of like aesthetic. It kind of like helps the car work better, but it's not really like something that you can mess up on. So if you want to be creative with this step, you can. So let's see. Let's streamline our car by making it more aerodynamic. And it wants us to place a wedge onto the workplace. And it says to make it 5 millimeters tall, 20 millimeters wide, which I think it starts as, and 40 millimeters long. Whoops, that's the wrong measurement. And 40 millimeters long. Okay. And it wants us to position the wedge on top of the car and make it a hole. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's the same direction as the car. I'm going to move it up a little, and I have to actually flip this upside down, I think, right? And to do that, I clicked on it, and I used this mirror tool at the top, where you can press M, and then I click this big, thick arrow to flip it upside down. And it wants me to take that and put it at one of the sides of my car and make it a hole. And it wants me to align this rectangle with the top of this car. So I'm going to use my alignment tool. I'm going to hold Shift and select the car body. I'm going to use the alignment tool, and I'll center align them. And I got to rotate my camera a little bit to see the option, but I want to also align it to that top right corner. Actually, okay, so it's aligned. So you see here, it's aligned to the top, it's center aligned, and it's aligned to the side. So now we can group them together, and this is exactly what it wants. Group. And apparently it's not. Maybe I sized it wrong, or maybe I aligned it wrong. But I'm definitely not supposed to have this stuff here, so let's see what happened. The rotation on it is wrong. That's what's happening. So I must not have rotated it 90 degrees. So maybe if I try, let's try to fix it normally first, and then I'll just redo it a little bit. Let's try it now. So the reason that happened there, guys, is because when I tried to rotate it, you'll probably see it if you go back in the video, but that was not perfectly rotated 90 degrees, so we got some weirdness to it. But now, hopefully, I guesstimated correctly, and by rotating it one more degree, I put it back where it was supposed to go. And now I'll be able to group this together and have a more aerodynamic design. Cool. Continue to the next step. And again, guys, you can do that step however you want. You don't have to do it exactly how they did it in a video. That's a good opportunity for you guys to find a creative way to maybe slim down your design. So maybe instead of just doing it on top, maybe you could shave off these corners here. You know, the more rounded your car is, the more aerodynamic it becomes. But again, that obviously gets harder. So yeah. To complete the aerodynamics work, we need to add a wedge shape to the front of the car and make it more pointy. So we can place another wedge. So it wants us to place another wedge. Actually, just to show you guys that you can kind of do something different than the instructions, I'm going to place a pyramid. I think I'm going to place a pyramid at the front of my car. Rotate the wedge 90 degrees. So I'll rotate my pyramid 90 degrees. Select both shapes and align them. Select. Select both shapes and align them to the center of the car. Oh yeah, center. Yeah. So if they're centered, so they're lined up. Set snap grid to 1 and use the arrow keys to position the wedge at the front of the car. Okay, so I'll click the wedge and I'll use the arrow keys to position it at the front of the car. Makes sense to me. My wedge is a little too big. I'll shrink it down a little bit. Cool. So now I have a nice little point coming out of the front of my design. And it looks like it doesn't reach all the way down for some reason. So let me Alrighty. So it looks like we now have a wedge at the front of our design. I think I messed up on the rotation again. I can see that the top is coming away slightly more than the bottom is. So maybe I did another 91-degree rotation by accident. So maybe if I rotate it 1 degree, -1. Maybe now I have it fixed. Yeah, that looks better. So again, I'm doing slightly off 90 rotations for some reason, but that's all right. People make mistakes. All right, cool. Select both shapes and group them, and then continue to the next lesson. So that'll be my design. And now I'm going to hit done. And something very important to know is that when you're on the last step and you hit done, this is going to be your saved work for this lesson. And this is what's going to get sent to the next lesson to work on. So if you hit done and you're not actually done, so like right now I was about to hit done, but I see that this shape is still not perfectly where I want it. I'm just going to hit the arrow key and just move this pyramid inside of it a little bit. And that'll make sure that I don't have those weird little cracks. And I'll have a little bump on it, but it's better than it was before. I'll group those back together. And it's not perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to hit done. And we're going to move on to the next lesson. And that'll be another video. But from this video, you should have 2 holes going through a rectangle that are in line with each other. And those are going to be your axles. And actually, I have something really important to do for the axles. Oh my goodness, I should have pointed this out sooner. But I'm going to ungroup this. I'm going to ungroup everything. I'm going to go back and click on these axles. And I want to turn these holes. Whoops. Why am I so? I don't need to still have that selected. I'm going to click on this axle, and it's super important that you set sides to as high as you can. I think it's 64. The reason for that is that if you don't do that, your wheels won't spin. And let me show you why. So side 64, tinker-cad can't actually make circles. What it does is it takes a bunch of flat sides and it kind of connects them in a circular shape. So you can see that here. So this is 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides. And the more sides you have, the more circular your shape becomes. The default cylinder is not circular enough. So the default cylinder only has, I think, 12 sides or something. So, hold on. It's not... The default cylinder only has a few sides, so we get these hard, flat edges that are a lot bigger, and like these corners, and our wheels won't rotate in that. So it's important that you put 64 sides. And let me undo all these little movements I did so that I can go back to having a working card that I can submit. Let me make sure everything looks okay. Let me group everything back together. And I'm pretty happy with my design for the base of my car. You guys, again, can maybe design it to look like a rocket ship or something. I would focus on designs at the end after you finish everything else. But, yeah. So let's continue to the next one. And I just want to show you guys one more thing before I stop this video and tell you to move on to the next video, is that when I continue to the next one, it's supposed to carry over my design from the first lesson. But I got something else. And the reason I got something else is because I had already... So when I reset... So this is at the end of this lesson. But when I reset, it goes back to... What's it going to give me? Oh, it actually gave me my new thing. Okay, perfect. So it looks like if you go back and redesign it and then reset this lesson, you will actually have the new thing. So that's nothing to worry about then. All right, perfect. So everyone should be able to start the next lesson with their design, with the body, and we're going to be adding the part to connect the balloon. The balloon's kind of going to be our engine for this car. And I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to email me if you have any questions. And again, you could always rewatch the videos, watch things step by step, slow things down, speed things up. This was a little long. I went off on a few little tangents. Hopefully everything was helpful. Hopefully you guys are able to do this.